And while we always see newspaper stories revealing and personalising some, if we're lucky, some individual event or some individual family dying, this provides the broad scope of the entire war and all the individual events, over the details of over 104,000 deaths. And we work together to statistically analyse this, and with various groups around the world, such as Iraq Body Count, who became the specialist in this area, and lawyers here in the UK who represented Iraqi refugees, to pull out the stories of 15,000 Iraqi civilians, labelled as civilians by the US military, who were killed, who were never before reported in the Iraqi press, never before reported in the US press or in the world press, even in aggregate, even saying today 1,000 people died, not reported in any manner whatsoever. And you just think about that. 15,000 people whose deaths were recorded by the US military but were completely unknown to the rest of the world. That's a very significant thing. And compare that to the 3,000 people who died in 9/11, and imagine the significance for Iraqis. So that is something that that we specialise in, and that I like to do, and I've always tried to do, is to go from the small to the large, not just by abstraction or by analogy, but actually by encompassing all of it together, and then trying to look at it and abstract through mathematics or statistics, and so to try and push both of these things at the same time, the individual relationship plus the state relationship plus the relationship that has to do with civilization as a whole.
Slavoj Žižek, the importance of WikiLeaks today in the world.
Well, to answer probably this question, it's just you can withdraw and give me 2 hours, no, but I will try to condense it. First, let me say also how proud I am to be here, and let me mention something which maybe most of you don't know, that how difficult even it was to organize this event.
Yeah.
Like, it had to be moved 2 times out and more out from central London, and so on. So again, what I want to say is, let me begin with the significance of what you, Amy, started with, these shots. I mean, not shooting, but video shots of those Apache helicopters shooting on. You know why this is important? Because the way ideology functions today, it's not so much that, let's not be naive, that people didn't know about it. But I think the way those in powers manipulate it, yes, we all know dirty things are being done, but you are being informed about this obliquely in such a way that basically you are able to ignore it. And can I make a terrible, maybe sexual offensive, but not dirty, don't be afraid, remark? You know, like a husband, sorry for male chauvinist twist, a husband may know abstractly my wife is cheating on me, and you can accept, okay, I'm a modern, tolerant husband, but you know, when you get the photo of your wife doing things, it's quite a different thing. And it's, I would say, with all respect, something similar. It's very important because the same, I'm not dreaming here. The same thing I remembered happened, I think, about 2 years ago in Serbia. You know, people rationally accept that we did horrible things in Srebrenica and so on, but you know, it was just abstract knowledge. Then, by chance, all the honor to Serb media who published this, they got hold of a video effectively showing a group of Serbs pushing to an edge and shooting a couple of Bosnian prisoners. And the effect was a total shock, national shock, although, again, strictly seeing, nobody learned anything new. So here, so that I don't get lost, if you allow me just a little bit more, here we should see the significance of WikiLeaks. Many of my friends who are skeptical about it are telling me, so what did we really learn? Isn't it clear that every power, in order to function, you have collateral damage, you have to have a certain discretion, what you say, what you don't say. But to conclude, I will propose a formula of what WikiLeaks is doing, and it's extremely important. Of course, I'm not a utopian. Neither me nor Julian believes in this kind of a pseudo-radical openness. Everything should be clear and so on. But what are we dealing with here? Another example from cinema, very short, Ernst Lubitsch Ninochka. You find there a wonderful joke where, I think towards the beginning of the film, the hero enters a cafeteria and says, can I get some coffee with cream, please? And the waiter answers him, sorry, we ran out of cream, we only have milk, so can I serve you with coffee without milk? That's the trick here. Like, when we learn something from the media, like, if I may repeat the metaphor, they behave as if they are serving coffee with cream. That is to say, of course, we all know they are not telling the entire truth. But, you know, that's the trick of ideology. Even if they don't lie directly, the implications, the unsaid is a lie. And you bring this out. You are not so much putting them, catching them as they put it with their pens down, lying on behalf of what they explicitly say, but precisely on behalf of what they are implying. And I think this is an absolutely crucial mechanism in ideology. It doesn't only matter what you say, it matters what you imply to say and so on. So, just to make the last point, I think that, are we aware at what an important moment we are living today? On the one hand, as you said, information is crucial and so on. We all know that it's crucial even economically. I claim that one of maybe the main reasons capitalism will get into crisis is intellectual property. In the long term, it simply cannot deal with it. But what I'm saying is, just take the phenomenon that media are trying to get us enthusiastic for. Clouds, like, you know, computers getting smaller and smaller, and all is done for you up there in a cloud. Okay, but the problem is that clouds are not up there in clouds. They are controlled and so on. For example, you rely on, maybe you have an iPhone, but you mentioned Murdoch. No, was mentioned here. Do you know, it's good to know, if you rely on your news through iPhone or whatever, that Apple signed an exclusive agreement with Murdoch. Murdoch's corporation as, again, the exclusive provider of entire news and so on and so on. This is the danger today. It's no longer this clear distinction, private space, public space. The public space itself gets, as it were, privatized in a whole series of invisible ways, like the model of it being clouds. Which is why, and again, this involves new modes of censorship. I repeat this. That's why you shouldn't be tricked when you say, but what really did we learn new? Maybe we learned nothing new, but you know, it's the same as in that beautiful old Andersen's fairy tale, the emperor is naked. The emperor is naked. We may all know that the emperor is naked, but the moment somebody publicly says the emperor is naked, everything changes. This is why, even if we learned nothing new, but we did learn many new things, but even if nothing learned, the forum matters. So don't confuse Julian and his gang, in a good sense, not the way they accuse you. Don't confuse them with this usual bourgeois heroism, fight, investigative journalism, free flow, and so on. You are doing something much more radical. That's why it aroused such an explosion of resentment. You are not only violating the rules, disclosing secrets, and so on. Let me call it in the old Marxist way, the bourgeois press today has its own way to be transgressive. Each ideology not only controls what you say, but even how you can violate what you are allowed to say. You are not just violating the rules. You are changing the very rules how we were allowed to violate the rules. This is maybe the most important thing you can do.
as you were releasing information in all different ways, you then turned to the very gatekeepers who, in some cases, had kept back this information, and you worked with the mainstream media throughout the world in releasing various documents. Talk about that experience and that level of cooperation and what has happened after that.
Well, we're an organization. Volume for the balcony.
Now that you said this, they will again idiots accuse you. You see, he's the authoritarian leader who gives commands and so. I'm not saying this is not true. I think this is the only way to really keep things going.
So if you want to have an impact, and you promise an impact, and you're an organization which is very small, where actually you have to co-opt or leverage the rest of the mainstream press. So under our model of how you make an impact and how you get people to do things that you wouldn't have been otherwise able to do, unless you have an army that can physically go someplace and panzer divisions that can roll over, the only way that you can easily make an impact is push information about the world to many, many people across the world. And so the mainstream press has developed expertise in how to do that. And it is competition also for people's attention. So if we had several $1 billion to spend on advertising across the world, even if we could get our ads placed, we wouldn't easily be able to have made the same impact that we did. And we don't have that kind of money. So instead, if you like, we entered into relationships with now over 80 media organizations across the world, including some very good ones that I wouldn't want to disparage, to increase the impact and translate and push our material into now over 50 different countries endemically. And that has been, yes, subverting the filters of the mainstream press, but an interesting phenomena has developed amongst the journalists who work in these very large organizations that are close to power and negotiate with power at the highest levels, which is the journalists, having read our material and having been forced to go through it to pull out stories, have themselves become educated and radicalized. And that is an ideological penetration of the truth into all these mainstream media organizations. And that, to some degree, may be one of the lasting legacies over the past year. Also by, even Fox News, which is much disparaged, is an organization that wants viewers. It cannot do anything else without viewers. So it will try and push news content. So, for example, with Collateral Murder, CNN showed only the first few seconds, and they blanked out all the bullets going onto the street. Completely blanked it out, and said that they did so out of respect for the families of the people who were killed. Well, there was no blood, there was no gore, and then they cut out all the most politically salient points, and the families had come forward and said it was very important for us to know that. They had already seen it. But Fox actually displayed the first killing scene in full. It's quite interesting. So Fox, not perceiving itself to be amenable to the threat of it not acting in a moral way, actually gave people more of the truth than CNN did. And so Fox, also motivated to grab in a hungry way as greater audience share as possible, took this content and gave it to more people. Now afterwards, of course, they put in their commentators to talk against it. But I think the truth that we got out of Fox it was often stronger than the truth that we got out of CNN. And similarly, for many institutions in the media that we think of as liberal,